Hi, welcome to this video on my channel. My name is Caylene. I've designed a new crochet stitch, the Cardamom Stitch, and today I'll use this stitch to show you how to crochet this Minty Cardamom Drawstring bag. You're going to be using a combination of the basic crochet stitches and puff stitches, and the puff stitches resemble cardamom pods, which is why I named it the Cardamom Stitch. To make this drawstring bag, I'm going to use light worsted weight cotton yarn with a 3.5mm hook. You're also going to need a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, something to measure with, and 2 stitch markers. So grab your materials and let's go ahead and get started. To make the base of the bag, begin with a slip knot. Now we're going to be working in multiples of 4, so to demonstrate, I'm going to make 24 chains. And once you have the desired chain length, which is also going to be the length of your bag space, you're going to skip the first chain from your hook. Then make a single crochet in the second chain from your hook. And to make the single crochet, I'm going to insert my hook into the bottom loop of the chain, as this helps to prevent large gaps. Now mark the top of this first single crochet. Now work another single crochet in the same way into the next chain. So single crochet into the bottom loop of the chain. Then again, do the same into the next chain. Now continue making a single crochet into every single chain all the way across and stop when you only have one chain remaining here. So I've worked a single crochet into all of these chains and there's one chain remaining here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 3 single crochets all into this last chain. And that's my first one. Now rotate your work just a little and work your second single crochet into the same chain, holding this yarn tail down against your work, and we're going to work all of the stitches over this yarn tail to hide it. Then rotate just a little more. Then work your third single crochet into the same chain over this yarn tail. Now I have 3 single crochets in this last chain, and your work is now rotated upside down. And what we're going to do next is we're going to be working into these remaining chain loops, the opposite side of these single crochets. So go ahead and insert your hook into this next stitch and work a single crochet over this yarn tail. Then do the same into the next stitch. And again. And before this yarn tail is completely hidden, you're going to give this yarn tail a gentle pull, and this tightens up the gap in this last chain. Now you're going to continue making a single crochet into every single stitch all the way across and stop when you only have one stitch remaining here. I've made it to the end of the round with one stitch remaining here where I told you to stop. And we're going to be working 2 single crochets into this last stitch. And now you should have a total of 48 stitches all the way around. Then to finish off the base of this bag, we're going to join with a slip stitch into the top of this first single crochet. So go ahead and remove the stitch marker. And what I like to do when I'm joining my rounds is, instead of inserting my hook into the stitch, yarn over, then pulling through to make a slip stitch like this. What I like to do is I like to do yarn under slip stitches. So you insert your hook into the top of this first stitch, then the yarn goes under your hook. Then you pull through to make a slip stitch. And this gives you a much tighter and neater join. And now we're done with the base of the bag. And the base of my bag is about 13.5 centimeters across. Now let's get started with the first round for the body of the bag, and this is where the stitch pattern begins. We're going to start with chain 1, then turn your work to the other side so that you're looking at the wrong side of your work. Now, ignoring this slip stitch that we did just now, you're going to work a single crochet into this first stitch. And I'm going to mark the top of this first single crochet. Next, you're going to chain 2. Then we're going to work a puff stitch. So yarn over, then insert your hook back into the same stitch where the single crochet is in. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Now we have 3 loops on the hook, and we're not going to do anything with these 3 loops yet. You're going to yarn over again, then insert your hook back into the same stitch. Yarn over and pull up another loop. Now you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 loops on your hook. And what you're going to do now is yarn over and pull through all except the last loop. And now you have 2 loops left on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops. And that's your puff stitch. Then you're going to skip the next 3 stitches, then into the 4th stitch from your hook, single crochet, and repeat what you did before. Single crochet, chain 2, and puff stitch back into the same stitch where the single crochet is in. So again, to do the puff stitch, yarn over, insert your hook back into the same stitch where the single crochet is in, yarn over, pull up a loop. 3 loops on your hook. Now yarn over again, insert your hook back into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all except the last loop. 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops. And repeat again. Skip the next 3 stitches, then into the 4th stitch from your hook, single crochet and repeat. Single crochet, chain 2, and puff stitch back into the same stitch. And that's it. Repeat this all the way around until you reach this stitch marker. By the end of the round, you should have a total of 12 groups of single crochet, chain 2, and a puff stitch. And I've just finished my last group of stitches. So after you're done with your last puff stitch, there's going to be 3 unworked stitches at the end of the round. Then to finish off this round, you're going to join with a slip stitch into the top of this first single crochet where the stitch marker is, without removing the stitch marker. And now we're ready to begin round 2. To begin round 2, chain 2. And for this entire project, the beginning chain does not count as a stitch. Now you're going to turn your work to the other side. In the previous round, you were looking at the inside of the bag, so now you should be looking at the outside of the bag. Next, we're going to ignore the slip stitch that we did when we joined the previous round. Then right here, you're going to see a chain 2 space on top of this puff stitch, and we're going to be working 3 half double crochets into this chain 2 space. So yarn over and work the first half double crochet into this chain 2 space, and then make 2 more. So now we have 3 half double crochets in this chain 2 space. Next, you're going to see a single crochet right next to this chain 2 space. And that's the V-shaped gap following this chain 2 space. So we're going to do 1 half double crochet into this single crochet. Now the pattern repeats. You're going to work 3 half double crochets into this next chain 2 space here. Then 1 half double crochet into the top of the next single crochet. Then again, 3 half double crochets into the next chain 2 space. Then 1 half double crochet into the next single crochet. Now continue with this pattern to the end of the round. Alright, I'm near the end of round 2. I made 3 half double crochets into this last chain 2 space. And right here is the stitch marker that I told you not to remove when we joined the previous round. And this is because it's easy to forget to work into this last stitch. And having this stitch marker here reminds you where to work the last stitch of the round. So it's safe to remove the stitch marker now. And I'm going to work my last half double crochet into this stitch. And now you're going to have a total of 48 half double crochets. Now to finish off this round, ignore this beginning chain of 2, then slip stitch into the top of the first half double crochet. Now let's begin round 3. To begin round 3, chain 1, then turn your work to the other side so that you're looking at the inside of the bag. Now in this round, we're basically going to repeat round 1. So ignoring the slip stitch at the base of the chain, work a single crochet into the top of this first stitch here. Then use your stitch marker to mark this first stitch. Now chain 2, then puff stitch back into the same stitch where the single crochet is in. So yarn over, insert your hook back into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook. Now yarn over again, insert your hook back into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 5 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all except the last loop, 2 loops left on your hook. Now, yarn over and pull through everything. Then like you did in round 1, skip the next 3 stitches, then into the 4th stitch, single crochet, and repeat what you did before. Single crochet, chain 2, then puff stitch back into the same stitch. Now repeat to the end of the round. Once you get to the end of the round, you're going to have 3 unworked stitches remaining, just like in round 1. So to finish this round, you're going to do a slip stitch into the top of this first single crochet without removing the stitch marker. Then, to begin the next round, chain 2, then turn back to the outside of the bag. Then you're simply going to repeat rounds 2 and 3 until your bag is as high as you want it to be. And don't forget to turn your work each time you begin a new round. I'm going to work on this until the body of my bag is about 14 centimeters high, ending with a round with the puff stitches. So let's go get the body of the bag finished, and we'll meet back again to work on the edge of the bag. Alright, right now I have a total of 15 rounds, and the height of my bag is 14 centimeters at the moment. Once you get to your desired height, your last round should be the round with the puff stitches, which is the one that's facing the inside of the bag. And now we're going to be working on the bag's edge, so what we're going to do is chain 1, then turn to the outside of the bag. In this final round, we're only going to be working into the chain 2 spaces. And you see the first chain 2 space here. So we're going to work a single crochet into this first chain 2 space. Mark the top of this first stitch. Now chain 3 a little loosely. Then work another single crochet into the same space. So now you should have a single crochet, chain 3, and another single crochet all in the same chain 2 space. And because we're only going to be working into the chain 2 spaces in this round, we're going to skip this next stitch and move on to the next chain 2 space and do the same thing as before. So single crochet into the next chain 2 space, chain 3, then work another single crochet into the same space. And again, skip the next stitch and repeat into the next chain 2 space and all the remaining chain 2 spaces all the way around. I've made it to the last chain 2 space, and by the time you reach the last chain 2 space, you should have 12 groups of single crochet, chain 3, and single crochets. And now, to finish off this bag, you're going to make a slip stitch into the top of this first single crochet. Chain 1, then you can cut and fasten off. You can remove the stitch marker. Alright, now that the body of the bag is done, I'll show you how to weave in the strings. I've made 2 chains of 86, which are about 46 centimeters long. We're going to weave one of these in from the right and the other in from the left. And before we begin, I want you to mark where to weave them in. We're going to use the last row where the puff stitches are, and I've got 12 puff stitches, so I've put a stitch marker over the beginning chain and the first single crochet, and then I counted 6 puff stitches, and then I placed another stitch marker over the next single crochet. So you should have an equal number of puff stitches in between the stitch markers on both sides of your bag, and that's 6 puff stitches in my case. Using your yarn needle, insert it into the gap under the first puff stitch right next to the stitch marker, out through the chain 2 gap on top of the puff stitch, then again under the next puff stitch, then out through the chain 2 gap at the top. So whenever you see a single crochet, your needle goes over, and always go under when you see a puff stitch. Pull as you go, and continue until you get back to the first stitch marker. Alright, I'm going under the last puff stitch. Now I'm going to pull out through this last chain 2 space and remove my yarn needle. And now I'm going to adjust to make the two ends the same length. And if you did this correctly, your stitch marker will be in between the two ends of your chain. You can remove this stitch marker now, and we'll begin weaving in the second chain. With the second chain, you're simply going to repeat what you did before. Inserting your yarn needle into the gap under the puff stitch next to the other stitch marker, you're going to bring the yarn needle in and out of the same gaps as the other chain. You really want to be careful not to get your yarn needle caught in any of the other strands of yarn, by the way. It happens to me all the time. So other than that, you're simply going to continue until you get back to where you started. And I'm going to speed things up a little. Alright, I'm pulling out through the last chain 2 gap. You can remove the yarn needle now. And again, the stitch marker should be in between the two ends of your chain, and you can remove the stitch marker now. Adjust to make the two ends the same length. Now finally, you're going to tie a knot on both ends. And it helps to give the two ends a little pull to make the two ends a bit longer. And your Minty Cardamom bag is finished. I hope you enjoyed this video. To help me out, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to stay updated. And it also helps if you could share this video with anyone who might like it. Thank you so much for watching and for your support. Please drop me a comment if you made this bag, and I hope to see you again in my next video.